if you are manifesting money and you feel like it keeps leaking out of your bank account, or you're working harder and harder and harder, but you still find yourself more and more and more in debt, if you just struggle with money, you have weird vibes about money, you don't like talking about money, if rich people make you uncomfortable, like if you have an irrational hatred of Jeff Bezos, but you don't know anything about him, you probably have some core money beliefs to work on. And that's what we're here to do. Welcome to Old Money, a show dedicated to helping you build the trust fund you wish you were born with. Ladies who lunch, listen up. Life is not about looking rich. I want you to build a life and a legacy that feels rich in every sense of the word. If you're ready to stack cash, talk shop, and trade insider secrets, you're in the right place. These are the new rules to old money, so let's get after it. Hello, rich girls. Welcome back to Old Money, the podcast to help you build the trust fund you wish you were born with. I'm your host, Amber Frankusen. Welcome back to the show. And you're not here with me recording this, but for this particular intro, tell me why I had to push record and redo this 8 times and it just wasn't hitting. I don't know what's going on with me tonight. I think it might be because I'm so overwhelmed by what this episode is going to be that I kept tripping over myself and I couldn't even get my thoughts right. So, okay, namaste. I'm recentered. I am here with you. Are you here with me? I hope I am reaching you at a time, whether it's a morning, an afternoon, a night, in your car, in your house, in your headphones, where you are ready to feel wealthy, to be wealthy, to embody the wealth consciousness that you deserve. Because today's episode is it's a good one. I always say that, right? Of course it's a good one. I'm not going to put out a bad episode, but today's episode is a linchpin in my development of my own wealth consciousness. It has actually hit me like a Mack truck over the past 8 weeks that I've been working on this, because that's right. This podcast episode has taken me 8 weeks to put together because I've put a ton of research into it. And it's actually also dovetailing into the relaunch of cash consciousness, which I'll get into. But today's episode is about rewiring our core money beliefs, the things that we have heard from our parents, that we hear on TV, that we hear in the media, from church, from our babysitters, from our friends, from our neighbors, that have weaseled their way into our own brains unconsciously. And they now shape the way that we see the world, ourselves, other people, and money. So in the last 8 weeks, I have been on a journey, not just to create the comprehensive understanding of our relationship with money, which is the program that I am launching for you again in January. If you are not already on the wait list, if you are interested in completely revolutionizing your relationship with money, I have developed these 7 dimensions of money, and I'm taking you through them in workshops, live events, videos, all the things within Cash Consciousness in the relaunch, the 2.0, whatever you want to call it. And I also, you guys, am finally giving you my budgeting template. That's right. The budgeting template that has 1,000x'd my net worth. That's not even a budgeting template. It's like a conscious spending plan. And it is so beautiful and easy to use. I've been upgrading it with somebody who's way better at spreadsheets than I am. It's all going to be packaged for you so that you and I will do your money dates together every single month. 2025 is going to be your best financial year, not just because you're going to have the tools in order to execute on it. We are also going to give you the mindset, because my old money philosophy is that building wealth is 80% mindset and 20% action. It's true. And this episode today is going through the basics, the foundations of what's happening in our brains that is causing us to either block abundance or block money or block opportunities because it's just not available to us based on the way we see the world. So there's a couple things here. Number one, again, if you want to join me in January, go to oldmoneypodcast.com/cash. You can join the waitlist there. I'm just going to let you know now, there's going to be a major bonus for people who sign up during Black Friday week. You can't even see what's on my computer screen right now, but your girl's getting merch. And by you girls, I mean all y'all. We're getting the most amazing merch, and I'm going to give it to everybody who signs up during Black Friday for free. I cannot wait for you to see it. It's insane. There's going to be a ton of giveaways as well. Oh my God, I'm just so excited about it. So Black Friday, there will be an opportunity for you to join at the lowest cost it will ever be, plus get a ton of free stuff. And I'm going to relaunch it again in January. So that's when we're going to start the program together. So 2025 is going to be set and solid. And then the other journey that I told you I've been on is, you guys, I've been getting hypnotized for the last 2 months. I'm on a different planet. My life has changed so substantially in the last 8 weeks from literally going to get hypnotized. And don't worry, my hypnotist is going to come on the podcast and break it all down for you. But it's what put me down this rabbit hole of understanding why my brain was getting in my way of my wealth. And it has changed everything for me. So today we're going to go through core beliefs, what they are, how they work, why they're influencing you. And we're going to tackle some of the most common core beliefs that we have around money that might be blocking us from the abundance we deserve. I'm not going to go through all of them because we just don't have the time. But here's the thing. You're going to find all of these core money beliefs and the way to work through all of them within Cash Consciousness. So this will be a preview for you of exactly what we're going to get into. I have developed 7 dimensions of our relationship with money. They all start with D, and this is the first one. It's called assessing the damage. So let's talk about it. Let's get into it. Let's bust those core beliefs that you have for good so they never block your abundance again. Let's kick it off with understanding what is a core belief. Now, core beliefs are our most deeply held assumptions about ourselves, about others, and about the way that the world works. They are firmly embedded in our brain because they're just things that we picked up when we were the most susceptible to learn. You've heard this a million times. If you have kids, you know, little kids are like sponges, right? When we are younger, when we are growing up between the ages of 1 and 7, we are creating so many neural networks in our brains. That's why kids eat so much. They're hungry because they're thinking so much. They're trying to make sense of the world. And we're taking all this information left, right, and center of the way that people are, the way that we're supposed to be, what's good and bad, what's right and wrong. And we're just programming it into our brain. We're picking it up from everywhere and from anything. And we're just trying to make sense of the world. But at that age, we actually don't have the cognitive ability to determine if the information that we're getting is helpful or harmful, or if it's true, or if it's just somebody's opinion. So based on what happens in our childhood, we might get a set of understandings, explanations, ideas about things that may or may not be serving us today. You remember the movie The Help, right? You is smart, you is kind, you is important. Why was she saying that? Because she was trying to embed beliefs in this little girl that she was smart, kind, and important so that she believed it and would show up in the world with the knowledge that she was smart and capable, that she was kind and thoughtful, and that she was important and she was able to advocate for herself. If you believe those really positive things about yourself, you're going to show up very differently than if somebody sat you down every single day and said, you are dumb, you are mean, and you are not important. And what's interesting is that doesn't usually happen. There isn't a parent that's usually sitting people down on the couch and saying, let me embed these negative beliefs into yourself. But what happens is that we have a set of experiences that are significant to us, and they tend to shape that whether somebody's telling us directly or not. Harmful core beliefs are like fake news. That is your brain's propaganda, providing all of these headlines that are not the full story, that are not accurate, that are going to shape the way that you show up in the world and the way that you view others. There is nothing to me that is more urgent than us working on our core beliefs if they're negative, because it completely prevents us from thriving in our lives. And they're actually the root cause of most of our psychological problems, determining our self-image, the way that we look at others, our beliefs about the world, personal rules. They make us see everything through a glass darkly, as opposed to with rose-colored glasses, and they generate and shape our automatic negative thoughts, which become our feelings and our actions and our results. So here's the best way that it's ever been explained to me. Your brain is like an old, big, dusty desktop computer. You know the ones I'm talking about, millennials, the ones we grew up with in our house, in the den, in our dad's office. Dusty, huge monitor. It's like a Compaq or a Dell or a Gateway. And it's got this huge, big rectangular box, this CPU unit. And it's where you input the CDs and the floppy disks. And it's dusty. It's making noises like it's going to take off like an airplane. And here's the thing, that computer, it runs hardware in that CPU, right? And then the images that you see on the screen, on the monitor, that's basically like your brain, the hardware that you have in your brain, in your body, and then your monitor is the way that you see the world. And here's the thing about those old dusty Dell computers is you were anything like me, you were downloading thousands of CDs on LimeWire or Napster, and you're trying to download bootleg versions of The Sims or like Roller Coaster Tycoon. By the way, you don't even know how to use a computer. You're just clicking around until things work. You don't know if what you're doing is good or bad. You're not organizing the files. You're just shitting all over this computer. And then you've got to use it for school, right? And you're writing this 5-paragraph essay for Miss Weldon's English class. And then out of nowhere, Word shuts down and you lose all of your work and you want to die because you were almost done and you can never recover it because where did it go? We have no idea. Why does that happen? Well, Microsoft Word might not run properly when there's a whole bunch of bad data and corrupt programming and all this stuff that's pulling a bunch of energy to different parts of the computer hardware. By the way, it's probably dusty and overheating. It's full of files and you just have energy going to all the wrong places. And it's not your computer's dying wish to have you fail high school English. Your computer is just doing the best that it can, dealing with all of the free music that you downloaded, all of the games, and all of the porn that your older brother was trying to hide in a file somewhere. It's just doing its best. It wasn't viciously trying to ruin your weekend by making you lose all of your homework. It's just doing what it's told to do the best that it can based on what happened to the hardware and the software in the machine. Your brain is doing the exact same thing. The computer was built to run processes. It's doing the best it can despite what's been put into it. And your brain's doing the exact same thing. Your brain is running a set of processes to keep you safe, to keep you loved, to keep you out of harm's way. Your brain hates to be wrong. It's wired to keep you right. It's running programming. And who knows who installed that programming in your computer brain? Was it your parents, your church, a random mean second grade teacher, a random movie you saw like The Goonies that shaped your entire worldview? Maybe it was all the shows that you watched on Friday nights on TGI Friday. I don't know, but you have all this programming in here and it's what's running everything that's showing up on the monitor of your life today. Why are we letting things that were installed unconsciously, unbeknownst to us, from 15, 20, 30 years ago, run how we see the whole world? And the thing about these subconscious beliefs is that they can be derived from dysfunctional assumptions, and then they cause really negative automatic thoughts, right? So we have this bad experience, and then it's shaping the way that we see the world, we see ourselves, we see other people. So if our thoughts create our feelings, create our reactions, create our results, and we're getting not optimal results right now, what I've been saying is that we need to change our thoughts, and that's true. But the easier way to change our thoughts is to work on the beliefs, understanding where they came from, and then be like, oh, that's just an old shitty version of The Sims. Let me uninstall that and reformat my computer. That's what we're doing here today. That's what we're here to do. We're here to reformat our money beliefs. Now, to go back to this computer analogy that's all dusty and gross, what is the computer there to do? The computer is there to compute. You put something in, it spits something out, right? Well, what are our brains there to do? Our brains are there to keep us alive. Aliveness in survival. That's why we have to deal with fight or flight all the time, even when it's just an email from a client and we're freaking out. But we also want to be safe. We want to be loved. We want to be accepted, right? We want to be accepted into our tribe. Evolutionarily speaking, being very different from your tribe would be bad, right? You need to be loved to survive. So you're looking for these ways to find community and agreement with other people, especially when you're little, especially when you don't really know what's right or what's wrong, right? It's challenging to be the one going against the grain or the one that disagrees, the contrarian. And our brains actually hurt when we disagree with ourselves. Our brains they hate to be wrong. It's cognitive dissonance. Our brains hate to be wrong. That's why we stay in these cycles of self-fulfilling prophecies, because we have these core beliefs. And if they're wrong, like, what does that say about us? It means that we're what? Not smart? We're wrong? We've been wrong all this time? I want to take that hurt away, Because again, your brain is just trying to keep you safe and secure. And you can rewire your brain in a really loving and forgiving modality of, I didn't know any better. I wasn't aware. And by the way, my parents didn't try to make me suffer. They were doing the best that they could as well. Part of generational wealth is not just what you inherit from your parents in monetary format, in real estate format. It's the ideas and the beliefs and the habits that they've passed on to you purposefully or on accident. And I think a lot of us that have these negative money mindsets, we just inherited them from people around us who weren't trying to give us this bad information so that we failed. It's because their brains were trying to keep them safe. And we're all always just doing the best we can with the information that we have. So I want to right away off the top, if you are confronted by something that's in this podcast or a belief that you come up with on your own and you become embarrassed or upset that you've held that belief, it's totally okay. And what we're here to do is empower you to forgive yourself and then find a new belief that feels more positive to you. And listen, this is not a one-stop shop. You don't just come into this podcast and get out of here and you're like good to go forever. This is something that we have to do over and over and over in our life. We can only upgrade our beliefs to the level that we believe, right? So as you go through this world and you build more wealth, you make more connections, you meet more people, you get new ideas, your beliefs might change over time. And I think that that's one of the most beautiful things about being a human is that we evolve. We are allowed to change, and our change, the evolution of our beliefs about money or the way we show up as parents or the way that we are in the world, it has a ripple effect of goodness. So upgrading your beliefs is not just about you, it's about what you're passing on to your kids, to your partner, or in your workplace. So there's a lot of benefit to upgrading our core beliefs so that our automatic thoughts become more positive and can lead us in the direction of more positive feelings, more positive actions, and therefore more positive results. So let's just prime the pump a little bit, okay? We're going to go through, like I said, some of the most common core money beliefs that I hear. And actually, one of them I want to call myself out because you're going to hear on an upcoming episode a negative sentiment about money. And it's said as a joke, and I didn't call it out, and I wish I would have. We'll get to that. But let's do a little, like I said, priming of the pump of just kind of seeing where we're at, seeing where you're at today, okay? So I'm going to give you 3 statements, and I want you to fill in the first thing that comes to mind, okay? 3 statements. I'll say the first half, you fill in the second half. First statement, with money, I am blank. Number 2, other people with money are blank. And number 3, money in this world is blank. Now, these are big questions. It's kind of philosophical, right? But I'm just hitting you fast for first thing that comes to mind. And I want you to think about how you responded. Now, you could have responded in the whole spectrum of opportunity, right? Did you respond with something like, with money, I am struggling? Or did you respond with money, I am empowered? Or maybe you said, other people with money are greedy. Other people with money are lucky. Other people with money are interesting to learn from. See where I'm going with this? How about money in this world is the root of all evil, hard to get? Or what about money in this world is a tool and a resource? There's a whole spectrum of ways that you could have responded to these questions. And so I'd like to ask you, how did your responses make you feel? Did they make you feel optimistic and positive, or did they make you feel yucky, ashamed, embarrassed, not positive? Don't judge yourself. Just ask yourself, how did I feel? And do these beliefs, do these answers, do they serve me? If not, we're here to rewrite what those answers are. And we're going to go through this process. At the very end, I'm going to ask you to do it again. And I think if you had a negative response, you might have a different one at the end of this episode. And listen, nobody has completely positive or completely negative or right or wrong beliefs about money, But I'm here to tell you that if you are manifesting money and you feel like it keeps leaking out of your bank account, or you're working harder and harder and harder, but you still find yourself more and more and more in debt, if you just struggle with money, you have weird vibes about money, you don't like talking about money, if rich people make you uncomfortable, like if you have an irrational hatred of Jeff Bezos, but you don't know anything about him, you probably have some core money beliefs to work on. And that's what we're here to do. So there's a 5-step process. Half of this is scientific. It's coming from studies. And then 2 of these steps are my own because we are applying this applicably to money. Applying this applicably. Do you like that? Okay. When we talk about identifying core beliefs, the first step is merely becoming aware of our negative cognitions. I have a set of journaling entries, and I'm going to read you a couple of them, but I have a total of 30 journal entries, and I'll drop a couple of them in the Old Money Country Club. If you are not yet a member, you can go to oldmoneypodcast.com, scroll down about halfway on our homepage, and you'll find a link directly there to join this incredible community of rich guys and rich girls who are connecting, networking, messaging each other. There's extra resources in there. I'm dropping bonus episodes. Go to oldmoneypodcast.com and join the country club. But let me tell you a couple of these journal entries that I think would really help you identifying if you have negative thoughts or beliefs about money. The first journal question would be, when you think about money, what emotions come up for you? Is it fear, excitement, guilt? What about this question? Do you believe money is easy or hard to get? And why? Or this third question, what do you believe about your ability to earn more money? Now, taking those 3 answers, again, I have more journal entries. You're going to get them all, journal prompts in Cash Consciousness. They're all going to be in there. And these are all reflections so that we can evaluate if we have positive or negative beliefs about ourselves, about money, about others with money. When you're going through this process, it'll become very clear for you very quickly whether or not these beliefs are positive or negative. And I think a good barometer for that is, does a very wealthy person think this way? If you are trying to become a very wealthy person, and again, I'm talking about wealth in all of its form, financial freedom, time freedom, relationship freedom, purpose freedom, does that future version of you, does that other person that you admire that's very wealthy, do they have beliefs like this? One of them, like, do you believe money is easy or hard to earn? Why? Now, Elon Musk sent out a PDF deck about his new AI company and got $1 trillion of investment with a 12-page PDF deck. And the company doesn't even exist yet. He just knows that if he has an idea, he will find the funding. Many of us, on the other hand, are dreaming about leaving our 9-to-5 jobs, wanting to become entrepreneurs, but not asking anybody to invest in us, not making that first sale, not doing anything to move that business forward because we think, well, we don't have the money, so how can I do this? See the difference? The second step in this process of dealing with these core beliefs about money is understanding where they came from. When did we first think about ourselves, about money in a particular way? Like, what experiences contributed to us shaping those beliefs? Like, who in our family may also hold these types of beliefs? So here's a couple of journal prompts for you to reflect on this. What is your earliest memory involving money? And how did it make you feel? How about this one? Was money talked about in your family growing up or not? Or what percentage of your childhood did you feel good about money? What was happening when you felt good? And how does that show up for you now? Or how does your cultural background shape your view of money, of what you're supposed to do with it, how much you're supposed to give away, if you're supposed to help people, if you're supposed to hoard it? All of these things, culturally speaking, can deeply influence the way that we show up with money today. And this exercise was so interesting for me to do because it brought up a core memory that had to do with money that made me feel like I shouldn't ask for it. And the core memory is, I've talked about it on the podcast before, I have a very, very crisp, clear memory of asking my mom for my allowance. We had agreed on an amount a week. I think it was like $5. I asked her for allowance and she said, I have already given it to you. You already got it this week. And I was really upset. I was really hurt. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm now in conflict with my mom. She's mad at me for asking again. I shouldn't ask for money. That's what came up for me when I was very, very little. Now, here's the thing. I didn't even know how to tell time when I was 7, okay? So it's very possible that I had already gotten my allowance for the week. But I was a smart kid, and maybe my mom, being the busy working woman that she was trying to run a household and her career and all the things, maybe she forgot. And it's not a big deal. I can forgive her for that because I forget shit all the time. And maybe that thing didn't even happen because I don't remember things that clearly from when I was 7. And yet I had been carrying this around for so long of ooh, remember that one time you asked for allowance and then it kind of made mom mad because she said she already gave it to you, but you didn't believe that she did? Did that ever show up for me in asking for a raise or saying, hey, this is what we agreed to? It actually came up recently in my company at AF Marketing because I had a client that was actually in breach of our agreement. They were in breach of our contractual agreement and I was due money. They had not followed through on their commitments to the contract and I had to get a lawyer involved to enforce the contract. And I actually didn't have any weirdness about enforcing it because it was right there in black and white. But imagine if I had some stuff still there about asking for money or not being straightforward, being really weird about it, feeling a lot of anxiety. It would have drained my energy away from other beautiful, positive projects. It would have caused me a lot of heartache, sleepless nights. And the reality is I feel so much more confident now in asking for what's due. And I have great accounting systems and great contracts. And I'm not going to waste any of my energy on any negative stories about whether or not I should ask for money. You made a promise to me. I made a promise to you. This happened before with me with another client. Long story, lots of detail that I can't share because it's super personal about what that client was going through, but it wasn't good. And that client was not very nice. And they just decided they weren't going to pay me anymore, even though we had been in business with them for many, many years. And I said, absolutely not. We are going to get paid for what we're due and you're going to figure it out. And at that time, I did waste a lot of time and had a lot of sleepless nights about asking for the money and being firm and being empowered to just get an attorney to write the letter, to take them to court, to do whatever I needed to do. We didn't have to go to court, but we settled on a mutually beneficial agreement to close out that contract and walk away from each other. But just imagine what it would have been like if I was still carrying that money story about how scary it is for asking for money and how it can cause a rift in a relationship. Because that one time I asked my mom for money, she got kind of mad at me and I didn't want to ask again. That would totally destroy my business. The third step of this process is simply asking yourself, do these beliefs serve me? If you have a belief that money is hard to make, ask yourself, does that belief serve me? No, not really. If I have a belief around how much money I'm available to have, does that belief serve me? No. If I have a belief that I can create unlimited wealth, does that belief serve me? Yes. If I have a belief that people are trying to take money from me all the time, does that belief serve me? No. Do you see where I'm going with this? So just ask yourself, does this belief serve me? And the fourth step of this process, it's the most fun part. It's installing new programming. You might still be running the 1999 version of Oregon Trail in your brain, and it is time to swap that out and exchange it for Yellowstone on Paramount Plus. Do you know what I'm saying? We need to identify the old programming, ask ourselves, who's installed this programming? And does this programming serve me? And if the answer is no, then let's fucking eject it. Let's get it out of there. Let's get some new programming in. And there's so many ways to do that. You can journal, you can use affirmations. You can just be in the energy of the people who believe what you want to believe. You can have conversations about it. You can challenge the assumptions that you have. You can ask yourself challenging questions to try to break through why you think the way that you think and if it's reasonable that you think that way. So today I wanted to go through a few of the most common negative money beliefs that I hear out there, and we're going to debunk them by going through this process. So if you're ready, let's get into number one. You've heard this before. It's been said 100,000 times. Money is the root of all evil. Is this true? Do we believe this? Now, I think a lot of us maybe don't truly believe this and repeat it all the time, But it's one of those things that's kind of thrown around and we don't really correct all that often. This phrase itself comes directly from the Bible. However, it's commonly misquoted or misinterpreted, I would say. The original text reads, "For the love of money is the root of all evil." That means that it's not money itself is the problem, but rather the love of money, which they mean in greed or obsession with wealth, that can lead people to harmful actions or moral corruption. Even though this is misrepresented or misquoted, I still don't believe in it. I do not believe that money is the cause of all evil. And I don't think the love of money is a cause of all evil because I love money and I am not evil. So thinking about this, I mean, this is one of those things where did we get this programming? Here we go. Religion. So much of religion programs into us these ideas of morality, right? That's one of the biggest pieces of religion is teaching us right or wrong. But a lot of times we're also being taught to be safe, to be accepted by community, to be justified in our actions. And also, and I don't want to get too controversial, but it served as a form of control, especially if you think back in the olden days. Like the church was to keep the townspeople in line, right? So we need to program some ideas into the people and reinforce them or really, really emphasize them to make sure that we keep our townspeople in line. Now, if we have a belief that wealth leads to greed or corruption or unethical behavior, is that going to serve us? No, it's not, because it means that we believe that if we get wealthy, we're going to be greedy or corrupt or unethical or evil. And whether it's the love of money or money itself, all in all, this is not programming I want installed in my brain. I'm going to tell you what I really think about money and if it's evil or not. Take the example of a knife. I first heard this analogy from Catherine Zinkina, who's a manifestation babe. I have to give credit where credit's due because it's brilliant. A knife. You can use a knife any time of the day. You probably have a few of them in your kitchen. They're probably very nice and very sharp. And you probably use it to cut up your tofu or chop some vegetables for a salad or to open a package from Amazon. You can also take that knife and you can stab a person 100,000 times in a fit of passion. Is the knife the problem or is the person the problem? The person is the one who decides what to do with the knife. And that person is not driven or influenced by the knife to decide what it's going to do with that knife. The knife does not influence if you're going to stab a person or not, because you could also be in a fit of rage and grab a spatula to inflict harm upon somebody if we're talking about kitchen utensils. Do you catch my drift? So when we look at a knife, it's not the knife that is evil. It's not good or bad. It's also not the presence of the knife or the desire to have a knife that's good or evil or going to influence behavior. And the knife most certainly is not going to stop or prevent or cause somebody to try to inflict harm on other people. It's simply a tool. It's the same with money. People who are greedy are going to be greedy about anything they want, whether it's land or Pokemon cards or Stanley water bottles or whatever the hell it is. It's not money that's driving people to be greedy. It's people that are greedy. It's not money that's driving people to be unethical. Money absolutely is a resource that people are trying to hoard, but is oil the root of all evil? Because I know a lot of people out there are trying to get oil reserves for their companies or their countries or whatever, and they're doing it in really scary, unjustifiable, terroristic ways. Now, you can argue with me, well, Amber, oil's just a representation of money. That's what they're after all along. Is it the money that's evil, or is it the person that's evil? And let me ask you again, does this belief serve you? Even if you want to argue with me all day long that money is the root of all evil and you truly believe that, does that serve you in your pursuit of wealth? Because we've established here that this whole conversation, Old Money Podcast, it's not about money in your bank. It's about living your best, wealthiest life with your financial freedom, your time freedom, your enjoyment, your relationship freedom, your purpose freedom. Why is the pursuit of that evil? What about the pursuit of that is evil if you're doing it in a really clean way? So I ask you, what would be better programming? How about money is a tool that helps me live my most expressed life? Money is a resource that's flowing around me at all times. Money is the root of all evil. No, that doesn't resonate with me anymore. How about money is the currency that we use to exchange for goods and services? That is a true statement. Money is the root of all evil is completely subjective. It's overused in our society, and it's one of those things that is out there to villainize money. Now, why would people want to villainize money? Well, because you might say some people are trying to control others, or you might just say on an individual basis, our sweet little brains are doing the best that they can to keep us safe and to keep us feeling good about ourselves. And because we hate to be wrong. And so if we say things like money is the root of all evil, then it actually makes us feel righteous and justified for not having a lot. Does that serve us? Does that serve your best and highest good? Does that serve your future self? Does that belief serve your children or your parents who you might need to support one day as they age? What about that belief supports you? When you think about money is the root of all evil, ask yourself why that's so pervasive in our society. Why do we believe that? And also, the subplot of this is that people with money are evil. Why do so many people think that Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos are evil? Do you know the actual richest man in the world is the chairman or the president or whatever of LVMH, Bernard Arnault? It's really interesting because I don't feel like he gets as much ire from society for being evil, even though he is the richest man in the world. But at the same time, people love to hate on people being successful. They hate on Elon Musk. And like, by the way, I'm not a fan of Elon Musk either. Like, I don't love him at all. But you can't really argue with the fact that he's created some incredible stuff objectively, like Starlink, providing internet access at a very low cost. That's the best internet that you could get that's based on a satellite. Or the fact that he really brought the first and most successful electric vehicle to market, whether you like a Tesla or not. It's a huge groundswell shift in the car industry, like unbelievable. Not as much innovation has happened since Henry Ford. Or what about what he's been doing with Neuralink, which I don't know a lot about, and who knows if that's even a good idea, but he's endeavoring to develop things that are going to change the face of humanity. And Jeff Bezos simply responded to the demands of his market. The market said, we want convenience. We want things delivered in 12 minutes. And he said, okay, I'll figure it out. But people hate him. And Jeff Bezos is always, that's a really interesting one for me because yes, I know he cheated on his wife. He's a cheater. I agree. It's not great. But is he evil? Is he like a wealthy overlord? Or what about Howard Schultz from Starbucks? Like he's been persecuted by our government for being so wealthy. And he's like, I've given more back to my employees that are all owners of the company and was one of the first to pioneer like full health benefits for people in an industry like this. Yet I keep getting penalized for being wealthy. Does that energy, does that belief, does that serve us? Does that serve me? Be selfish about it. Does me hating on Howard Schultz, the former CEO of Starbucks, help me in my life? Well, I don't know. I bet, you know what? I bet he has some pretty good business philosophies that would help me be a leader or ideas to consider in my own business. I don't know. It just doesn't serve me. So I don't waste any energy on it anymore. So I'm looking for new beliefs. I see that there are evil people out there and I choose not to associate with them. I think that there are people out there that are driven by things that are not healthy and I don't associate with them. But at the same time, what's money? Money is just a resource. It flows around me all the time. I use it to buy goods and services. That feels a lot more true. That feels a lot less debatable. And it feels a lot more positive. Okay, this next one, I have to call myself out for it because this gets said on an episode that's going to come out in like 2 or 3 weeks. And it was said as a joke, right? But that's the thing about jokes, not to get all heady, but it kind of made me think about how we used to be so, I don't know, accepting of using slurs like the R word or the F word or GAY to describe something that was stupid. If you were a kid of the 90s, that was something that was so pervasive in our society. And it was said all over TV and friends and whatever. But you have to see something and say something when you know something's wrong. And I didn't do that for this one. And I almost feel like if we're really going to crush these negative beliefs, we have to attack it in the same way that we do for slurs in language because what we say, we reinforce. And I don't want these beliefs reinforced in my brain. So this one was said on a podcast. You can tell me if you hear it in a podcast coming up soon. More money, more problems. Where did this phrase come from? I'll tell you where it came from. I'll tell you exactly where it came from. It came from Notorious B.I.G. and Sean Diddy Combs. Why are we trusting things that Sean Diddy Combs said? We're not anymore. Okay, we're not anymore. So we need to get rid of this belief. But where does it come from culturally? Well, it's been talked about for centuries. It's been pervasive in our society. As the bigger your wealth grows, the more challenges that come up. Now, where did we hear this? From a rap song, from our parents, from TV, from shows, wherever. Does this belief serve me? No, it really doesn't. Because if I believe that the wealthier I get, the more problems I'm going to have, that's the complete opposite of what I'm endeavoring to do. So if I'm going to challenge this turn of phrase that just kind of comes out all the time, I have to ask myself, why do I think this? And in what ways do I reinforce that, right? Here's the thing. Money is not going to cause problems or solve problems. No matter how much money I have, it's not going to cause problems or solve problems. Who causes problems and solves problems? Me, depending on what I do with my money. Let's say, God forbid, I get really sick and the treatment is only available to me in, Mexico, and I need to fly there and stay there for 3 months to get treatment. If I have money, I will use that money to solve that problem for myself. I will make the decision to do that. The money doesn't heal me. The money doesn't fix the problem. The money is a tool for me to attempt to solve the problem, to get the help when I need it. If I have a whole bunch of money and it's invested in a whole bunch of really risky endeavors, and I don't have anybody really managing it, and everybody's coming to me for money all the time because I've promised it to them when I can't really afford to do that. And I have bills that are bigger than how much money's coming in, and I'm stressed all the time. Whose fault is that? Is it the money's fault? Or is it the decisions that I made about what to do with that money? I can create money. I can use money as a tool to solve problems. And I can also use money as a tool to create problems. And the way that we look at this phrase of more money, more problems, the way that I think that can be adjusted is that as we acquire more money, build more money, and have a more sophisticated money system, there might be bigger decisions, new challenges, larger amounts of money that get transferred from, my savings account to an escrow account to put a deposit down on a house. Like as your wealth capacity grows, you have to make more decisions and make bigger moves. And what needs to happen is that your knowledge base and your confidence and your resources to handle that need to grow with it. So when I hear people say more money, more problems, I almost think of it now as like, oh, they just don't have confidence that they can handle it. Oh, you think that more money is going to cause you more problems? Well, I have the belief that as I have more money, as I acquire more money, I'm going to become a more sophisticated, financially sound version of myself as I build my wealth. I'm going to learn along the way, and there will probably always be things that I never fully understand. And I'm going to do my best all the way through, and I will solve problems as they come up because that's what I do. But the amount of money that I have in my bank account does not dictate the number of problems that I have in my life. You can be flat broke or 100 millionaire and have an unhealthy relationship. You could be flat broke or billionaire and be unhappy. You could be flat broke or you could be making 6 figures and be sick. Those problems are not influenced by how much money you have. You influence the way that you solve problems in your life, and money is a tool that allows you to do that. So let's reframe this whole thought pattern. More money, more problems? No. I like the thought pattern. I shared it with you already. As I'm on my wealth building journey, I am gaining knowledge and becoming the person who is capable of being a multimillionaire, a 10 millionaire, 100 millionaire, whatever that looks like for me. I'm becoming that person, and I will have more and more knowledge, capacity, resources, and support to solve problems as they come on my path. And by the way, money is a resource to buy goods and services with, and I can use it to make things easier for me. Okay, so that's just two limiting beliefs around money. On this sheet of notes I have right here, I have 11. I have so many more to go through. We just can't do it all in one podcast episode. That's why I'm going to bake it into cash consciousness. Let me know if any of these other limiting beliefs sound familiar to you. Money doesn't grow on trees. How about that one? No one should have too much. I'm not smart enough to be rich. People like me aren't wealthy. If I make a lot of money, I'll just lose it. Or how about this one? Entrepreneurship is risky and a steady job provides stability and security. Ooh, that's a really juicy one. I have so many more listed out here, and I'm sure you have so many more that are in your own brain. And that's why I'm leaving space for this, for us to discuss it in Cash Consciousness when we launch it again, because we need to dive into all of these and bust these money beliefs. And remember, at the beginning of this exercise, I asked you 3 questions. With money, I am blank. Other people with money are blank. And money in this world is blank. I'm looking for those blanks, those things that you fill in to be your new programming, beliefs that serve you, that are constructive, that help you get to where you want to go. And it takes practice. So we're going to practice it so much more. If you have limiting beliefs around money and you want one busted specifically, please send me an email, a DM, a carrier pigeon. I don't care. I want to make sure we get it into the curriculum. But I hope that this exercise of at least busting those 2 kind of shows you how I've been going through this, right? The first step is acknowledging and recognizing that I have that negative thought. Then I'm asking myself questions like, why do I think this? Like, where did this come from? Who do I know that maybe gave me this programming? And do I want it anymore? Is this helpful to me? If this doesn't serve me, then I'm going to replace it with new programming. And what is the new thought pattern that I want to install? And in the whole course of that process, I am digging into challenging the beliefs, testing them, pressure testing them, and figuring out what feels better for me. And that's what I'm here to do with you. So that's all for today, my loves. I hope you guys are having a lovely intro to the holiday season. I'll be checking back in with you with some exciting updates. We have some amazing guests coming up in the next couple of episodes, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, you know where to find me, oldmoneypodcast@gmail.com, oldmoneypodcast.com, and oldmoneypodcast on Instagram, TikTok, all the things. I love you guys so, so much. Sending you all of the wealthy vibes, and I'll talk to you on the next episode. Okay, bye-bye. Feeling rich? I hope so. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Old Money. If you have questions you want answered, email me at oldmoneypodcast@gmail.com or hit us up on social. We are at Old Money Podcast, and I am at your service. If this episode spoke to you, inspired you, helped you, if you took a single note, it would mean the world to me if you could please just take a minute to rate and review the podcast. And if you're not doing so already, subscribe. And if you have friends who like getting rich, please share this episode with them, even if it's just on your Instagram story. And I'd love you more than Jeff Bezos loves Amazon Prime. Thank you so much, and I will talk to you on the next episode. Remember, I'm not your lawyer, I'm not your tax professional, and I'm not your financial advisor. The content presented in this podcast is intended to entertain, educate, inspire, and support listeners in their personal and professional development and does not constitute business, financial, or legal advice. In addition to that, this episode may contain paid endorsements and advertisements for products and services.